Hey everyone, welcome to It's Messy, but It's So Good. And I'm your host, Fran Medina. You are in the right place if you love real stories of growth, courage, purpose, and transformation. Each episode really helps you calm your mind, find some clarity, and inspires you to create a life that truly feels good. And today, my guest is Fred Sager. And Fred is a master Mountmaker at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And he gives us an inside view of how all these beautiful pieces of art and jewelry and artifacts get displayed, what goes into it. And he also shares some interesting stories about working behind the scenes and how art gets blended with engineering, problem solving, and of course, his deep devotion to the objects that we all love. So meet Fred and tune in, press play, and we'll see you on the other side. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to It's Messy, but It's So Good. And today my guest is Fred Sager. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you very much.
It's such a pleasure having you, another amazing person in our community.
Our so community.
Nice. Oh, of course. And the community we're referring to is the Warwick community in the Hudson Valley, New York, for those of you that are listening anywhere in the world. And Fred has a really amazing job. And when I heard about what he does, I just knew I wanted to have him on the podcast because it's really such a unique profession. So, Fred, tell us, what do you do as you're working at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and what exactly is it in working with object conservation? And if you can tell us a little bit more about what exactly that means.
I would love to. I work in the Department of Objects Conservation. Although I'm not a conservator, I don't actually work on art objects, but I do make support armatures that hold art objects in the galleries, in cases, and those designs are based on the desires and wishes of the curator who's having the show, and also the designer who's designing the show. Mm-hmm. And we work for all the departments in the museum. I believe there's 16 departments here in the museum. Most departments have their own exhibition schedules, so there may be 4 exhibits going on simultaneously here at the museum. And we have to make those supports so when the objects go in the galleries, they're seen in a certain way, based on the viewer, how the viewer looks at the objects, how the light is hitting the objects. Sometimes and these are mostly 3-dimensional objects, I should add. Sometimes these armatures are attached to back walls of cases, so the object is suspended off the wall, up and off the wall, or sometimes the mounts are coming off the deck of the case, and the object is supported from a rod or a plate that sits on the deck or goes into the deck to hold it in a certain way. So we're doing a variety of objects, anything that you can imagine that's 3-dimensional, whether it be a bust or a small sculpture or an item of jewelry, all historic and all very, very good examples. The Met has an amazing collection of art. We're so fortunate to be working on exquisite objects, probably along the best of any example of an object. You can find it here at the museum. So we're so fortunate in our studio to have objects coming up to for mount making, or armature making, as I like to refer to it, um, from all parts of the world, from all different um, time periods. At any one time, you can walk in our studio and see Egyptian art on the table, getting a mount for um, a mask, let's say, or a small piece of jewelry. We'll also next to that could have a piece from the Islamic department, which is
Mm.
much different style and much different design. Um, Next to a piece from the American wing, we're about to do a small show called Revolution because, of course, our country is going to
Mm.
be celebrating our revolution soon. So um, we often like to we have a lot of tours coming through the studio, and people are always interested in what we do here. A lot of people don't notice what we do because our job, our intent is not to have people see what's holding the art. We want the viewer to focus on the art only. And so we camouflage the mounts to match the object that it's holding. So we're also very good imitators, camouflagers, paint colorists, and a lot of times if people say I don't understand what you do, I don't see anything, we say thank you very much because that's our intent. Um, and well, there's many facets in armature making that we have to consider. Number one is the safety of the object itself. We don't want to have, and we usually use brass in our mount making, brass rod, brass strap of different brass rod of different diameters, or brass strap of different thicknesses and widths. We use brass because if we heat it, it's very malleable. If we make a piece of brass red hot with a torch and let it cool, it becomes very flexible, almost like a wet noodle. You can bend it with your
Wow.
hands. And uh, this is a good thing for us because we have to match exactly the contour of the object that we're working on. We don't want a lot of gaps between the armature and the art. We want a form-fitting support that will sort of blend into the object. Usually we're putting a layer of an interface of felt or ultra suede in between the brass and the object to cushion it so the brass is not in direct contact with the object, um, which minimizes any kind of damage between the brass and the object. Um, and well, there's a series of steps. Probably it takes about 2.5 days, I would say, roughly, to make a mount for an object because there's a lot of, as you may guess, there's a lot of fitting to get a armature to match the contour of the art. I always thought that we handle art more than anyone else in the museum, more than
Mm.
curators, more than conservators, more than technicians, because we're always we have to fit the armature to the object, and that requires time after time to put the object in the mount. Notice where the mount has to be adjusted so it fits perfectly. Take the object off the mount, bend the mount, try the object on the mount again, over and over and over. Probably sometimes 30 times you have to
Right.
set the object into the mount to make it fit properly. Um,
So
and
you
so,
have the object there with you
oh
for the
yes,
2.5 days. Or
yes,
wow, interesting.
yes. And probably, I think right now we probably have about 20 objects in our studio. I know we're doing a traveling jewelry show to Hong Kong and Shanghai.
Hmm.
There were about 100 mounts we had to make for that show, and everything had to be finished. Will need to be finished by early January because once we finish our job, then all the objects and mounts go to the packing room. The packing room makes all the crates for the objects and stores them safely for shipment, and they need a certain length of time to prepare um, their needs. Um, and then the first show opens in Hong Kong, I think late March. So there's always a series of steps that one has to go through in order to get these things ready and get them to their destination on time. It's a lot like show business, I think.
Yeah, everybody has their
The
part.
show must go on, and there's a very rigorous timetable involved. So we're sort of at the end of our jewelry mounts. I think it was about a 3 month process, and all while other exhibitions are happening at the same time. So
Yeah.
we have to make sure that we can distribute the work amongst ourselves. I'm working in a studio with four other people here. Um, we have to make sure that we have all the bases covered and we get all the shows completed in time.
So it's all your responsibility in terms of you and your staff to really determine exactly what mount, how the mount's going to go on. And the there's no one else in the museum that actually has maybe some feedback into that, or it's your decision.
Um, I think it's pretty much our decision once we know how the object will be seen.
Hmm.
Then we have to, it's our job to create something that's strong, that will support the object safely at the right angle. Um, I think when you're a beginning mount maker, the hardest thing, at least for me, was to decide what size brass to use in a mount, because the worst thing would be to have an object in a case that's vibrating. If your mount is too weak, for example, the object will actually move around because the case is sitting on the floor of the gallery, and even people walking by the case will create vibrations in the case. And you don't want an object moving around while someone's looking at it. So that's the worst thing, I think. So and it's not uh, to know what size rod or strap to use in a mount is not something that you can go to a book and read about that. It's really
Mhm.
comes from experience. Um, After a while, you get to know what size rod or strap will support a mount safely without it vibrating. I always um, try to think, try to determine what size brass to use, and then I usually go up a step. And if you look in our shop, if we open a drawer, you'll see a multitude of diameters of rods, multitude of sizes of strap that you can choose from. I always try to go up the next step in size, and then I'm kind of sure that when I finish, I'll have something that's strong. And you certainly don't want to make the mount twice, that's for sure. You don't want to make the whole thing and put it on your test block, put the object on the mount, and it's vibrating and moving around you. And that which means, well, I'm going to have to redesign it now, and I'm going to have to rebuild it.
Yeah, it
And
takes a long time to do that.
so we don't want to get into that position if we can help it.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't. What we do is not really taught in a school. There's no training program for mount makers. Most of the people I work with have art backgrounds, but there's no
Mhm.
specific course in mount making. So the people I work with, they may be jewelry makers, they may be metalsmiths. In my case, I was a fine art major, but we all have these sort of skill sets that we can bring um, when it comes to armature making or mount making. So it's
Yeah,
it's more like the when we hire a new person, it's more like the guild system, really. It's be in the space, watch what other people are doing, ask advice. Um,
hmm,
so there are some short courses that a person can take, maybe 1 or 2 week courses in mount making, but they really aren't thorough, and they're not teaching you all the different aspects of mount making.
yeah. You're just going to be learning on the job.
Pretty much, yes,
Yeah,
pretty much.
being mentored and doing. Yeah.
Yes. And you have to
Yeah.
learn quickly because because we have to abide to a schedule.
Exactly. There's a lot to do. So, what sparked your fascination for really working with mount making? I mean, I know a lot about your history in terms of, where you
Mhm.
came from, but
Mhm.
was it just something you fell into at some point?
Um, I was always interested in sort of mechanical things. Um, I mean, it goes way back. It goes way back to high school even. When we had a very good art department in our high school. I know I took design courses. I took mechanical drawing when that was still a viable thing to learn, which was all with T-squares and angles and pencils and et cetera, et cetera. Um, I remember there was a in the auditorium in high school, someone came and talked about the Fisher Body model car contest, which was sponsored by Fisher Body, who made frames for automobiles for Detroit. And they actually sponsored this contest where you could design a car and build it and enter it into a contest and maybe win a scholarship to college or uh,
Mm.
I won an honorable mention for my car, which was pretty good. I won $25. But this was for me an amazing experience to build this model car, which was, I don't know, 15 or 16 inches long. They supplied the tires for you. They sent them to you in the mail. They sent you they sent you specifics if you want to design a sedan or a sports car. Everything was laid out as far as dimensions and length and height of the car. And I built a car and I entered it. And this was something I'll never forget. I still have that car
Mhm.
in my chest of collectibles. But anyway, that sparked my interest in car making, and I really wanted to go on to college to be a car designer. That was my first love.
Mhm.
Um, I was accepted into Rochester Institute of Technology, and I was going to go into a design program. I never actually fulfilled that desire. I came from a family who no one ever went to college, and I was the first one to ever go to college in my family. No one really knew about college, how to how to get financial aid. Um, Most of my family worked for the state because I'm from Albany, which is sort of the center of state offices in New York. So my uncle worked for the state. My father worked for the state. My brother worked for the state. Even after high school, I worked for the state for about a year. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life, and my family urged me to get a job for the state, like so many of our family had done. Um, but a friend of mine, Ron Spadero, came back from Syracuse University one summer, and he said, "Fred, you have to do this. You have to go to college."
Mm.
And soon after that, I applied to college, and I did go to college. It wasn't RIT, but it was a state university of New York, where I got um, I studied in a liberal arts capacity, so I got training in many forms of art: printmaking, drawing, sculpture, painting. When that ended, again, I was kind of lost, like I was at the end of high school. I didn't really know what the next step was going to be for me. I was going out with a girl at that time whose parents had moved to New Mexico, and they said, "Do you want to come out to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and be the caretaker of our art gallery? And we'll give you a studio in the basement where you can do your own art." And I
Wow.
thought, well, I don't have anything else on the line. I was working in Ethan Allen at the time as a bandsaw operator making furniture. Um, and so I did that. I took kind of a bold step in my life, and I just said, "All right. we're going to go to New Mexico and see what happens, which I did for about a year. I did some really, what I thought was some really great art in that little studio in the basement. Um, I was a caretaker for the art gallery. Um, the most important thing was I was able to do my own fine art and still make a living at the same time, and everything was all in one place. Um, I had met the next door neighbor, Bob McDonald, who said, you know, my brother's going to be coming through New Mexico on his way to Pasadena, California to sell T-shirts at I think it was the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Do you want to come with us? It's a whole crew of people selling T-shirts, and maybe you'll make like $40 or $50. And I said, sure, why not? I've never done that before. Um, I went to the Pasadena. I did make about $40 or $50 that day, but it was all like just bootleg T-shirts. It wasn't like an inside concession. We were like hawking
Mhm.
these shirts, running around parking lots, um, trying to avoid the police. Um, but Bob's brother, John, said, you know, I have this silkscreen studio in New York City, and the guy who's been working for me is about to leave. Do you want to come to New York City
Mhm.
and be my silkscreen artist? I'll give you, I'm in a loft. I'm living in a loft on 8th Street, Park Avenue South, and I even have a bedroom there that you can stay in. And
Wow.
way in the back of the loft is our printmaking studio. And so I had a job already. I had a place to sleep, and I said, okay, I'm going to go because the art gallery was about to close. The art gallery
Mhm.
wasn't making a profit, and the people who owned it, my girlfriend at the time, it was their parents. They told me that they were going to close the gallery. So it was just luck that they coincided, the closing of the gallery and this job offer in New York City. So there I was, leaving and going to New York City suddenly. Um, and I worked for that silkscreen company for about 3 years.
Mm.
But I knew that I had been watching the Met, and I knew that at one point, they were offering positions here, installing period rooms in the American wing. And I applied. I didn't get the job the first time, but the second time I applied, I got I got my foot in the door. I was accepted to work on this one room. I think it was a shaker room. Um, but once I got my foot in the door and we finished that shaker room, I was asked to continue on the
Mm.
next room. And there were, I think that might have been a Frank Lloyd Wright room. It was a 2-year project. And then after that, there were a few more rooms that I worked on. I think a Gothic revival room and one other room. I did that for about, I don't know, maybe 7 years. I think I was
Wow.
installing period rooms, the American Wing. I went on to work on a different room, which was called the Gubbio Studiolo, which was a Renaissance studiolo. It was a small intarsia room. Intarsia is a way of working in wood that's very pictorial. So this small room had, you know, when you looked at the panels, they had cabinets that with doors that were open and things inside the cabinets. And this was all done with wood. It's almost like putting wood together in like marquetry, only it's a little different. It's different layers and different thicknesses of wood. And that room was from the Renaissance, I think 1480 roughly. And that was a big project. That was a 5-year project. Um, so there I was in New York City. Suddenly I had gotten a job at the Met. Um, I was working on great rooms. I don't know. I just got lucky. I think throughout my past, I just got a lot of fortunate breaks that I took. Uh,
That's what I was going to say because I'm listening to you and you had opportunities presented to you
yes, I
and you
did.
took them.
I was fortunate to have opportunities presented to me that I took, sometimes out of desperation, um, not really knowing what I was going to do next. Um, so in that respect, I was very lucky in the respect that one of the opportunities was to work at the museum, another very, very lucky break for me. And I've
Yeah.
been here for 45 years, so
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I really didn't do armature making until 1995. Um, all the other year-to-year jobs I was doing, or in some cases, one, like as I said, Gubbio Studiolo, it was 5 years. All those projects were contractual projects.
All
So in
right.
other words, you would get a contract, you would agree to it, you would work until the project was completed. You didn't know what was going to come next. You didn't know if
Mm.
they were going to offer you another position or not. And the Met wouldn't really tell you until like 2 weeks before the
Wow.
end of one project if you had the next project. And I was lucky enough to have 15 years of projects, one after another. But then I was offered a permanent position in the Mountmaker studio, which I took at that time. At that time, I was married. I had two young children. I needed the benefits. I needed the security of a
Mhm.
full-time permanent job. Um, it wasn't as exciting to me as working with on the art with my hands. Um, but at that point in my life, I think I had to make some decisions to be responsible for my
Oh, sure.
children, for their future, for their education.
Sure, of course.
I kind of took a step back a little bit from what I wanted and did what I needed to do. But I don't have any, even though I didn't really want to do that at the time, once I did take that step, and I started as kind of like in the guild system, where I learned how to make these armatures. Then I really liked it because it was again mechanical in some way. It was
Mhm.
designing and building, um, and so yeah, I've been doing that. I've been doing this since 1995. I worked on some great objects. I worked on a Etruscan chariot for several years. This was a chariot that we have the most complete chariot in the world here in the Met, and it was found in
Oh,
a burial pit in Tuscany. It comes from it's about 600 BC. This chariot, and since it was found in a burial pit, all of the wooden structures were gone. They were deteriorated. All the bronze parts to the chariot were still intact, but there was no wood to support all those parts. So I worked with a conservator from Rome who came to the Met once every 3 months and told me what to do next. And everything I did was mostly wood. Um, from the basic shape of the chariot, this kind of U shape cutout wood, which was originally steamed and bent, but we chose not to do it like that. We chose to make a panel and cut the U shape out. So if you can imagine a bird's eye view of a chariot looking down, it is kind of like a U shape coming back. And then there was a cross section in the holding the two ends of the U shape together, which was all done with mortise and tenon joinery. Whatever she discovered in her research about the construction of the chariot, that's what she told me to do.
mm.
And so I remember she gave me on tracing paper the actual size of this U shape to make and this cross member at the back. And she said, next time I come, I expect that you'll have this part done, and we're going to go to the next part. Will be the two posts that go upright that hold the front panel, the front bronze panel on, et cetera, et cetera. And that was just an amazing project for me. Um,
Where did it end up going back to? Did it stay in your museum or did it go back to
It's
Italy?
still here. I think in light of everything that's been going on in the art world, that the town would like to have this chariot back again. So it's a little bit controversial right now. But so far we have it here. It's on the balcony in the Greek and Roman department.
Mhm.
Uh, that project included woodworking, metal work, faux painting work. Um, it covered a lot of different aspects
Yeah.
about making that I really enjoyed.
And how old was it? You said 600, was 600 AD
I
or
think it's 600 BC. Yeah,
BC? Wow.
yeah. I'm a little mixed up in my dates. It's Etruscan. Maybe it is 600. I'd have to review it again. I'm sorry,
Wow. But either
but
either
it's
or.
old. But it's very old.
How did you feel actually touching this object? I mean, I- because it's centuries and centuries of history.
Hmm.
What did it feel like? Did it feel like a kind of like an out of body experience where you just couldn't like,
At first, we have to always have gloves on when we handle any art
mhm,
because
right.
acids from your fingers can create
Hmm.
problems with a surface, especially a metal surface. Um, well, you're in awe. First of all, you're you're in awe that you've been selected to work on such an object. And when you first see it and study it, the detail, and you learn a little bit about how it was made originally, yes, you're a little intimidated actually because you're going to be touching this and working on it. You can't damage it
Mm,
in any way. You have to respect it as far as handling goes. Um, there are many, many people involved in the project, so you have to really be able to listen and take directions. But when you start, that's when you are no longer concentrating on the art and the value of the art. Even though it's in the back of your mind, you're concentrating on what you have to make
right.
and and how are you going to do that. Many times I have objects up here that I work on and I make what I have to make the object is gone back to the department or installed in the galleries. I think to myself, I didn't even really look at that object. I was so involved in what I was going to make and how I was going to make it and how did it fit. I wasn't really concentrating on the object at all,
Mhm.
um, what the surface looked like, what it was telling me, what it was saying.
Mm,
And that's sort of what you kind of go into that next level almost of making something.
right.
So even though that piece is precious and you have to really be careful, you're really concerned about concentrating on what you're making.
Right. It's very detail oriented. I see how you have to focus, just zone into what you're doing. But do you ever go to the exhibit and then look at it and
Oh
then,
yeah, sure. Then you really get to see, for the first time, you really get to study it and see how it fits in with the other objects in the show.
yeah,
Focus on the date the time period is coming from. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
finally, once your work is done, you're a little bit more uh, free to access the objects as far as looking at it and reading it.
Hmm. And as far as when things get messy, I don't mean like only physically messy, but let's say things aren't going right or you have an obstacle in your path. How do you get through that? Like what perspective or maybe tool or way of approaching it helps you to get to the next step? In other words, how do you deal with the stress?
Um, If things aren't going well, you stay late until you finish it because especially if it's due the next day or it's going to be installed in the galleries in the next day or so. A lot of times we have art that's coming on loan from different institutions,
Hmm.
many times from Europe, where it will be brought here by a courier to make sure that it arrives safely and that courier can watch that piece be installed in the gallery safely, and then that courier goes back to their home country. In those cases, you might have 2 days to get the art, which you've probably seen a picture of it, but you've not really seen the three-dimensional version of it. It comes to our studio. That piece is going to be installed in 2 days while the courier is here, and they have to be there to watch it go in. So you have 2 days to design the mount, build the mount, uh, put felt on it, camouflage it, and have it ready in time. So you have to, there's no excuse for, sorry, I don't know what, I can't finish this in time. So there is a lot of stress, especially when it comes to exhibitions with couriers. We have a Raphael show coming up next spring. There'll be a lot of couriers for that show, so we're going to have to be on our game plan for that. But yeah, there's a lot of stress involved. You get used to it, I think. You have
Well,
to
I
work.
guess, knowing that you completed the last one gives you the energy to know that you're going to get through to the
Well,
next
when you do it over and over, you sort of know. You have a
Yeah.
pretty good idea of what you're going to make. Although every object is different, which keeps me very engrossed in what I do. There's no really
Hmm.
two objects that are the same. Um, yeah, so you base it on your experience, and then maybe add a little to that once you finally see the object. Okay, now that's here. I know I did this once before and it worked, but in this case, I'm going to have to do a variation of that because this object's a little
Hmm.
bit bigger, or it's a little bit thinner, or it's got a different profile. Um, yeah, but I think it's based on experience. And not only that, but I must say that there are times when you do damage the art. It's
Mm.
inevitable. It's inevitable. When I first became a Mountmaker, there was a Greek platter on my desk. It was silver, and I kept lifting it with two hands into the mount to try it. I would put it back on my table, make some little variations in the mount, lift that platter back up again, put it in the mount. Oh, I need to bend it here a little. Oh, I overbent it a little bit too much over here. Take that platter, put it back on my table, make my little changes, try it again over and over and over, probably 20 or 30 times to get it right.
Mm.
At one point in that process, I didn't pick that little platter up with two hands. I picked it up with one hand, and the whole side of that platter came off in my gloved hand.
Wow.
And the rest of the platter was on the table. And I just sat there for about 20 or 30 minutes with this fragment in my hand, looking at it, going, "Oh no.
Mm.
Oh, I can't believe I did that." So there's a precious piece of art that you've kind of damaged.
Yeah.
Um, Luckily, in retrospect, that was a repair. It was a glue joint that had weakened, so I felt a little bit better about it. But of course,
Yeah, it wasn't really your fault.
it wasn't my fault. But the department had to come down. The conservator in our department had to come down. The head of the Greek and Roman department had to come.
Wow.
All these people had to come over to look at it. You felt about that big.
Mm.
And it takes a long time to get over those things. It takes weeks to get over those
Yeah.
when that happens. And my average is once probably every 6 years.
Mm.
When I
That's
look
not
back,
bad.
that there's a piece of art that I've damaged in some way.
But often it's okay, maybe you should have picked it up with two hands. But it's also because there was a weakness in the art itself, which
It, yeah. In
it
that
would not have
case,
happened probably if it didn't have that weakness.
mhm,
So,
true, true.
you know,
In that case, yes. But there's been other cases where,
but you
um,
learn, you learn, and I'm sure you didn't permanently damage something where it was ruined and couldn't be.
exactly, exactly. But it can happen. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm in a studio with other people, and everybody sort of shares the same experiences.
right.
Eventually, one day, somebody's going to say, "Oh my God," you're going to hear it over in the corner of the room. Someone has just dropped something, or they've had it in the mount and it's fallen out of the mount and broken.
Mhm.
Um, you're putting up a piece of glass onto a wall with little pins, and it slips out of your hands and falls and breaks into a million pieces. It's all happened to everyone here, and I think the most important thing is to just get over it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, learn from
You
the
have to,
mistakes.
because otherwise it's always going to be in your mind and you won't be able to work
Yeah.
efficiently. You'll just you'll be concerned about that incident instead of moving forward.
And I'm sure like being, because you're working with a team, even though you're all, doing different things, I'm sure like kind of supporting each other because you all can identify with when you mess up.
Yes,
And then getting the support from one another is
yes,
important.
yes. And we're always urging, if that happens, anyone, just please, it happened. Just try to forget it as quickly as you possibly can, so
Yeah,
you can move
and with
forward.
anything, I mean, unfortunately, it happens in let's say in medicine.
Hmm.
There's mistakes that are made,
Yes.
and that's even more serious in a sense.
Hmm. It
So
is.
it's really about, okay, what can I learn from this opportunity? Don't allow the monkey mind to take over. Be paralyzed and
Well
move
put.
forward.
Yes, yes, the monkey
Um,
mind, exactly.
and this podcast is called "It's Messy, but it's so good," and you don't want to take the good out because the good is what inspired you to do it to begin with. So you don't want to
Mhm.
throw that out. So we all have to go through it in our own ways, even outside of careers, right? Just in life,
Yes, just in life,
relationships
sure.
and finance and, in every
Yes.
aspect. So
Yes, you pick yourself up and you move forward. And
yeah, yeah.
it's just the nature of life too. I mean, things happen
Hmm.
that are out of your control, but you have to persevere.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my last question to you is what do you think the greatest gift you have received from your journey, from your passion, from your position? Because you obviously get a lot out of it and enjoy it, and it's a very unique job. Um, yeah, what has been the greatest personal gift for you?
I, mhm. Just, I think the greatest personal gift for me is working with my hands, creating, designing, creating these armatures that I do at the Met, being around great art and great people. The people I
Mm,
work with are very, very intelligent, very, very skilled. I've got the best of many worlds here, and I'm just very I try to remember that how lucky I am every day to do what I do. And
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I did have to expand the envelope a little bit. I discovered I wasn't going to turn out to be a fine artist making a living in New York City. I understood early in my life that I didn't have the, what it's needed to do that, which is a lot of perseverance, a lot of determination, um, to make it in that world. But once I expanded the envelope a little bit, I thought, oh, there's opportunity here, there's an opportunity there. So it turns out after the whole life experience that I just kind of grabbed opportunities, and I think I just got lucky.
Well, I'm sure the museum's lucky to have you and your team. And I want to thank you so much. If anyone wants to get in touch, in the show notes, I will have your email, and
Perfect.
people could reach out if they have any questions or comments. And of course, you can comment by contacting me in the show notes as well, and writing a review of this podcast, sharing it with friends. It's just been a pleasure speaking with you, Fred, and I thank you
Thank you.
so much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening to It's Messy, but It's So Good. And I want to thank my guest, Fred Sager, for his contributions to the art world, all behind the scenes, and it helps us to appreciate all the beautiful artifacts, paintings, jewelry, and sculptures. So thank you to Fred and his team for sharing your passion and your skills in craftsmanship. I want to remind everyone also that you can download by subscribing to my email list, Stay Centered, 5 Mindfulness Tools for Instant Calm, which is a free gift. You can go to the show notes and you can just download it from there. This is a beautiful toolbox that gives you really quick tools on breath work, trauma tapping technique, anchoring, and body awareness, and also some journaling. So that's my gift to you, because we know sometimes life does get messy. Okay, well, thank you again for listening, and thank you, Fred, and we'll see you next time.